Well, welcome into Instant Reaction, an Indianapolis Colts podcast. I'm Casey Vallier, joined as always by Colts Ring of Honor wide receiver Bill Brooks. Bill, we've got some news.
Yes,
we
we
have
do.
got some news, and it's before that, the official league year starts with all the free agency frenzy, and it is Alec Pierce re-signing with the Indianapolis Colts. He announced it live on the Pat McAfee show. Now, according to reports, it's a 4-year extension. We don't know all the language on all of that, but we do know that Alec Pierce is returning to Indianapolis, 4-year deal. And Bill, there's a lot of places to go, but I figured starting out, one of the ways I kind of viewed him as, if you will, like a blue chip free agent. Mm-hmm. He's a guy who sometimes in free agency you get the guy who is overpaid, hasn't, maybe has performed at a high level, but not at the elite level. I feel like Alec Pierce is young, continuing to, every year he has elevated his game year after year. And I talk about, everything that he's been. Luckily, we get to see him on a day-to-day basis and what he does inside the locker room, outside. He fits everything that you'd want in a free agent, and now he returns to the Colts.
Yeah, I agree with you, Casey, and I'm happy that Alec is back with the Colts. Very happy to hear that because after last week, hearing that, he said he might kind of test the market and see what's out there and want to, do the best for himself, that he's coming back to the Colts, being back in the fold. But as you mentioned, Casey, he's a young guy that has shown that he can work, he can develop his skill as a wide receiver, he can improve, he can get better, and he's done those things. And not just that, but he's a good teammate. He's well-liked in the locker room. The quarterbacks like him. He's a guy that just goes out and does his job day in and day out. He works at it during the week.
Yep.
He listens to Reggie and the coaches so he can be on the same page as, of course, the quarterback and the rest of the offense. And he's going out there and produced. And that's the bottom line. He has produced. He has made big plays for this team throughout his career and continues just to grow and get better. And his numbers got better as the years went on. And this year, catching over 1,000 yards for the first time and averaging over 21 yards per catch this year. So Alec has just done a nice job, and that's what you want. You want to see young guys grow and develop and then become one of those guys that, he's a guy that they can depend on and a guy that they want to have on the team, and he's not going to cause any problems or any troubles.
And with that, you talk about him going over 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. He does so on just 47 catches.
Mm-hmm.
And, we looked into some, Matt Taylor and myself, we dove into some research over the last, month or so, kind of leading into this free agency period with Alec Pierce and putting the numbers to what the rest of the NFL has done. And this is a nugget that really I thought was impressive. Only 3 players in the last 30 years have had over 1,000 yards receiving on less than 50 catches in a season. He joins Deshaun Jackson, who we all know is that elite down the field. You talk about yards per reception. That's one of the things that Deshaun Jackson did. And then Mike Williams did it once with the Chargers. Mm-hmm. That's it, though. That's the list. So it shows you how impressive he was able to do it on, that minimum. You talk about over not even 100 targets. That is one thing that he mentioned with Kay Adams last week when he was on that Up and Adams podcast, talking about heading into free agency and what all of this means. And ultimately, he knows that when you get that area where you are a premier free agent, a team is paying you a lot of money, that role changes.
Yep.
So his role is going to change within the Colts offense from what we've seen over the previous, handful of years while he's been here. And in large part because, there are some games where, maybe he's got a few targets, maybe 1 or 2 catches. As the number 1 receiver in this, landscape that we're playing, where do you think the biggest area of his game is going to change when you look at what that role is going to be heading into 2026?
Well, we know he can go deep. We know he can get the deep ball, and that's why maybe the attempts aren't there because you're not going to throw a ton of balls down the field.
Right.
So I look at Alec's production to come, not more of, but be added to what he already does, is at that mid-range game.
Yeah.
That 15 to 20 yards, that going down 15, 20 yards, running a dig route, coming across the middle, running that over route across the field from the right side all the way to the left side, maybe about 15, 20 yards down the field. that 20-yard comeback on the sidelines, things like that. Those are going to be the plays that I think that you're going to see a lot more of Alec doing out there on the football field, being able to catch a play. It's like you said, when you're that type of receiver now that you're getting paid that type of money, they're going to look for you to make some more plays. And for you to make some more plays, you're going to have to do some other things besides just go deep. And he can do that. You saw him improve on that year after year. So I don't see that being a problem for Alec going out there doing that, making those big plays. And he has that opportunity to make those plays at the mid-range game. Those could turn to big explosive plays down the field, meaning run after the catch, catching the ball at 15 to 20 yards, and then running for 15 to 20 more yards down the field, because Alec's a big guy, fast guy, uses his body very well in catching the ball, screening out defenders to catch the ball, and using his hands. So I see Alec doing those things, and I see him only improving and getting better at it, working with Reggie and the other coaches.
Now, I label you as an expert because you played in the NFL at this receiver. Hey, Bill, I know you're as humble as they get, but
I won't call me an expert.
Hey,
but
you were in the Ring of Honor.
I have
you're playing
experience
receiver
to say
at
that.
the NFL, so
I have
I'm going to
experience to say that.
A lot more expertise than what I have. But I think over the last, I would say, couple months of the previous season, you really started to see that part of his game be utilized. I think about that. I can't even remember what game it was, but that fourth down conversion where it was over the middle, like 4th and 9, you had to have it, and there it was to Alec Pierce. It was almost like they really started to see the evolution of who are our best players, our best weapons, making sure we get the ball in their hands. And our colleague Rick Venturi, he always talks about the ambient players. Mm-hmm. And I would say from day one, he loved Alec Pierce, and he talked about how what he's able to do, it makes him that ambient player, the 2 Tylenol guy for defensive coordinators. And I think that is one thing about Alec Pierce's game that is only going to grow, because you've seen what he can do in a limited role. And now if you expand it a little bit more, all of a sudden you could really check into some of that untapped things you didn't know you had.
Exactly. Do that, and also that helps the offense as well. I mean, because if a defense is going to say, okay, Alec is just going to go deep, we can play our defense to stop him and not worry about anything else what Alec can do. But when Alec starts doing some other things, it changes the defense. Yeah. They have to start thinking differently now that, okay, now they have another weapon that can do not just only go deep, but he also can run across the field. He also can run those mid-range routes. But it also opens up everything else for the other guys as well. Right. Knowing that, you have Tyler Warren that can run the underneath stuff. You have Josh Downs that can do some things. So you have those guys out there that can do some other things, and having Alec back into the offense and doing more than what he did in the past is only going to be a plus for the offense.
Now we're on instant reaction here, reacting to Alec Pierce announcing that he's returning to the Colts. And last week we found out the Colts are using the transition tag on Daniel Jones. Now, this still leaves the door open for, the contract, chatter back and forth between he and the Colts on a long-term deal. So we don't know, where those stand as we were recording this, but that is probably the anticipated goal on trying to get something more long-term done with Daniel Jones. But we had talked about it during our free agent capsules on, whether it's our daily update that airs locally here or, our podcast leading up to this, that Daniel Jones was almost like that linchpin, if you will, for Alec Pierce coming back, because we saw that relationship really grow. And I think I mentioned this to you, how ironic it is, because a year ago there were a lot of people nationally that said, well, Daniel Jones doesn't really push the ball down the field, so it might mean that Alec Pierce is going to see, a decreased role, if you will. And I think we totally saw that be the opposite. Both of these guys flourished inside this offense, and I think you really saw that relationship between Daniel and Alec. And you know this, like I said, you played receiver. You know how important it is to have, that rapport with a quarterback.
Yes.
So how important was that, do you think, for Alec Pierce returning to play with Daniel Jones, because they already have that chemistry built in?
I think it plays a part. I think it definitely plays a part. And, depending on how you are as an individual, as Alec, how he relates to Daniel, which for what I see, they relate very well together. They have a good rapport on the football field. Like I said, Alex, good person in the locker room. Daniel seemed like a good person in the locker room. So they have a good relationship from what I know. And that's an important piece for Alex to be able to come back and feel comfortable with the quarterback he's playing with, knowing that, hey, he understands me. He understands my body language. He knows when I do this on the field that I'm probably going to break my route here or I'm going to do this. He understands my speed. He understands when to throw the ball up, so let me go get it, to go for those 50-50 balls so I can come down with it. So that's a big part of, I think, Alec making a decision to come back because, if you go somewhere else, a different team, you start all over again like a rookie. You start fresh. You got to learn the quarterback. The quarterback has to learn you. You have to learn your teammates. You have to learn a whole new offense. You have to learn the city, the team, the other people in the building. So it makes a big difference. People might not think that's a lot, but that plays on a person when you have to go somewhere new and learn things all over again. He's coming back here. He knows that he had a good relationship with Daniel. He knows Reggie Wayne very well. He knows his teammates very well. So it'll be a lot easier for him to come back and feel comfortable picking up from where he left off and just hopefully improving from there. And hopefully, having Daniel back and going from there, and just hopefully the offense can pick up from where they left off when they were 8-2, and hopefully do a lot of better things in the last 7 weeks of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about that 8-2 start. I mean, those first 10 weeks, I think he mentioned it on the Pat McAfee show today that we were the best offense in football. We were probably
rolling.
the best team in
They
football
were rolling.
because
they
of
were rolling.
how they were playing.
Yes.
I mean, it was historic levels. And I think there's no reason to think that they can't get back to that, especially you talk about, those relationships and being able to pick up right where you left off. I think that is key. But one of the things you mentioned there was teammates. Mm-hmm. And the Colts made the big trade to acquire Sauce Gardner.
Yep.
And, it was, injury riddled, and, you could talk about the way the last half of the season went. But Sauce and Alec are very close.
Yes.
They played college together collegiately at Cincinnati. They are both avid golfers, and I thought it was really, really funny last week. And I'm going to quote a tweet from Sauce Gardner when all the trade talk was going on. He said, and this is quote from Sauce Gardner, "Should I lock Alec Pierce in my basement and force him to sign the contract papers?" Well, I'm going to tell you this right now, Sauce, it worked. Because you know how important it is for those relationships, and whether you call it tampering, legal tampering, whatever the NFL terminizes it. That's not even a word. I just created that.
Right.
Terminizes.
Yeah,
That's clearly not
yeah.
a word, so don't use that out there. But there is chatter, and you can get in those bonds with these guys. And I think that is also an area that really helped in turning this as well, because Sauce Gardner, clearly a good friend of Alec Pierce. They talk glowing about each other when Sauce wasn't here, and then when Sauce was here. They golfed together. We saw the pictures. So I think that is also another piece of it. And Sauce, he is going to be in Indy for some time as well, because when you talk about that trade, he had already had that, big-time extension involved. So he's going to be in Indy long-term. So I think having kind of those cornerstone pieces on the outside, it's going to help both of them. But I think that relationship is also part of the reason why Alec's returning.
Yeah, I mean, people, don't understand the relationship that players have with one another, and of course, Alec and Sauce go back to college days. So, that's important for you when you're thinking about where you're going to go, what team you're going to be with. And, Alec has those relationships with Sauce, and it makes it a lot easier being in a comfortable environment,
Right.
being able to learn and being able to flourish. Those things help you flourish by being in a comfortable environment and having some friends around that you can bounce things off of. But also, I mean, let's face it, Sauce and Alec go against each other in practice one-on-one. So
that's what you want.
That's a little trash talking about amongst each other. So it's fun. That's what you want to have. You want to have fun in practice. You don't want to be something that's boring and mundane all the time. So you have some friends that you can do some different things with, and I think that plays a part in it, and it's going to be very important for this team to get people that really like each other, you know what I mean, and really enjoy being around each other, not just because you're playing football, but because you just like the person, who they are. And I think Alec, likes the people that he's around, and they like Alec, and that makes a big difference. And that's the type of chemistry you want on your team, where guys like each other and enjoy each other and go out and play for one another.
Now, as we're recording this, the new league year officially begins on Wednesday at 4. So there is going to be roster construction that's going to continue to make its way. And, we're not talking about all the other moves or things that could happen here and there. We're really diving into just Alec Pierce returning. But one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, and I mentioned that he goes back to playing with Sauce at Cincinnati. When you look at what Alec Pierce has done since the Colts drafted him 4 years ago out of Cincinnati, kind of a raw talent with a lot of upside and potential, and he's really grown into that. What have you seen out of Alec Pierce? Because the area of his game that we saw really elevated in 2025, kind of some eyes started opening up around the league, but I feel like we've been talking about this for the last couple of years.
Yeah, we have. I mean, we knew that Alec was athletic. He could jump. He could run. Big body guy, strong, long arm guy. As I say, he could run. We saw and we knew that he can go deep and catch the deep ball, especially the 50-50 ball. He can jump very high. But what we've seen is Alec develop the other things that you need to do to be a successful receiver in the National Football League. Being able to come off the ball. Being able to, when you do run deep routes, be able to stack that defender, get in front of him so you can get deep, have position on him. Be able to run those routes, get into your break, and come out of those breaks. Very important for a receiver as a start, the middle of the route, getting into the top of the break, then coming out of that break, creating some separation. And I think we've seen that from Alec develop over the years. And those are the things that, to me, I enjoy watching. Yes, It's nice to see Alec make those 50-50 ball catches and come up with the big catches and the big touchdowns like that. But I enjoy to see the technique part of running a route as far as getting into your break, coming out of your break, starting with your start and coming off the ball and being the defender at the line of scrimmage and things like that, and then getting your body in position to make a catch to ward off the defender that's going to try to swat the ball down or pick it off. Those are the things that I like to see, and Alec has gotten better at those things year in and year out, and he continues to work on those things. And to me, that's the fun part about Alec that I like seeing how he has developed. I'm looking forward to see him do some other things out there in the football field as well going forward.
Now, final couple things with you, Bill. Reggie Wayne is the receiver coach.
Yes.
And I think from a personal and professional standpoint with Alec Pierce, there is a very high amount of respect from both he and Reggie Wayne. I think Reggie Wayne demands a lot for what the room is supposed to look like and how they're supposed to act. And I think that Alec Pierce is kind of that perfect guy to kind of show that, because he has been challenged year in and year out. It's one of those things that nothing is given to you. And Reggie Wayne is a guy that knows that better than anybody. I mean, he came in here with Marvin Harrison right there, and it was like, hey, if you want to make it in this league, you got to figure out a way to get yours.
Yes.
And Reggie Wayne is that guy. So I think part of that, too, that expectation for what was demanded out of the receivers that Reggie Wayne just constantly puts on them, I think that is so big. And also having that as a sounding board for Alec Pierce is only going to continue to help him grow, and that is probably one of the reasons that he has grown into what the receiver we see today.
Yeah, it's big because Reggie is not only a coach that demands something from those individuals, demands a lot from those individuals, but he sees a lot in those individuals, and that's why he demands so much. He sees the athletic ability that those guys have. He sees how smart they are. He sees that these are the things they can do to be good, to help this team win. And like Reggie's played at the highest level, and he's done it, and he's, I don't want to get off on this tangent. Yeah, we know. I can
We've
go off.
Been there.
Yeah, I don't want to get off on that tangent where Reggie should be in the Hall of Fame.
But he should be. He should be in the Hall of
Fame. But he demands a lot from those guys because he sees the talent that they have, and Reggie expects that because Reggie expected it out of himself.
Right.
So it's easy for him to go out there and expect those guys to play at a high level each and every week. So I think it's good for Alec, and I think it's good for the young guys, and I think it's good for any receiver coming in here, whoever's going to be a receiver on the Indianapolis Colts, to have Reggie as a coach, because he's going to demand the most out of you so you can give the most and help this team win. And it's only going to help you as an individual, but of course it's going to help the team. So I think it's a good fit with Alec and Reggie together, as Reggie being the coach and just trying to coach Alec, and seeing how Alec has developed over the years. Give a lot of credit to Reggie for that.
Now, the final thing I want to talk to you about, Bill, and I'm sure in some ways you're maybe a little surprised it took me this long to talk about it, but there is a personal connection.
Yes.
Alec's little brother, Caden, is going to be joining the Purdue Boilermakers next year. You know me as a big Purdue fan.
You and your
So
Boilermakers,
there's
yes.
a part of me that maybe that also played into it. We know that family is a big thing for the
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
The Pierce family is, and I mean, you talk about athletes, it's incredible. But
yes, I know.
being from Chicago, you got brother going to Purdue, everybody's still right here in the Midwest. I think that might played a little bit of a role as well.
That could have played something into it, Alec can, during his free time can go up to Purdue and see little brother and
That's right.
and see what he's doing, how he's doing, or go watch a game and root on his little brother. Little brother come down and of course watch a football game and root his bigger brother on and go from there. And the family comes down. So yes, close knit family, nice family. So I'm sure for mom and dad it's a little easier to kind of hit the spots they need to hit to see both those guys play. But it's neat. That probably has something to do with it. But I'm glad Alec has signed back and he'll be close to family.
Absolutely. Well, that is one little thing that I don't know necessarily if it played a huge role.
But you know what? It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
The Purdue fan, I was excited to hear that he was joining, and keeping Alec here is pretty impressive.
Yes.
And that's one thing that we wanted for sure. But like we said, it's an instant reaction here talking about Alec Pierce coming back to the Indianapolis Colts. 4-year extension. He announced it with Pat McAfee today. Massive news for the Colts. But number 14 is going to be back in Indianapolis heading into 2026. But for Bill Brooks, I'm Casey Vallier. Thanks a lot for joining us here on Instant Reaction and Indianapolis Colts Podcast.